Welcome, everybody, to a new series we're going to be starting here at the Fantasy Authority. I'm Andrew Harbaugh. You can find me on Twitter at MandrewNFL. I'm going to be recapping all of the 2021 rookies that shine at each position: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, obviously. And then from there, that way you know guys that kind of target whether you're in a Devy league or you're trying to plan for a rebuild or really what to do with your fantasy team. And that's the whole premise of us bringing this rookie information to you from the Fantasy Authority is your fantasy team is just like a normal franchise. It's like any NFL team. You've got to know who's going to be a contender, who's going to be a buyer, and who's going to be at the bottom of the heap, and who's going to be a seller. You got to know if you're the New York Jets or you're going to be the Seattle Seahawks or the Kansas City Chiefs going all in. With that in mind, starting here with week 3 of college football, things are kind of getting back into the swing of things. We're getting to a normalcy. Big Ten's going to be kicking off here soon. SEC starts next week, even though we're already in week 3. Lots of big matchups there we'll be talking about. We get Alabama back. We get the Floridas back. Auburn. Lots of good players where the prime of your rookie drafts are going to be starting to play this weekend. Until then, though, we get to have guys like from the AAC, guys like at SMU, UCF, who we're going to have a lot on this list. But we're also getting a lot of new guys that we're not used to seeing, like from the Sun Belt, and other guys like we're getting from Coastal Carolina, from games against like Big 12 schools that we're seeing with Kansas. Kick off here with the quarterbacks, though, for our recap for our stars from the weekend of week 3 with college football. Quarterback has to be Shane Buechele. Out of SMU. Close second was Dylan Gabriel, quarterback for UCF, but Buechele, being the better prospect, got the nod for me. Buechele had a fantastic game, having a 73% completion percentage, going 24 for 33. He just looks so dialed in, and it's crazy to think that Texas chose Sam Ehlinger basically over him. Almost a same kind of what the heck's going on sort of thing with Georgia when they took Jake Fromm over Justin Fields. Buechele has a live arm, an electric arm, an NFL arm, and that's something you really want to be looking at. He had 344 yards, 4 touchdowns, did a fantastic job this weekend, like I said. A running back for me, that's really kind of taken off and going from bottom of my rankings. I think he's going to move up a little bit this weekend after the game he had. The Raging Cajuns, Billy Napier, the coach down there, has really got one hell of a team. Levi Lewis at quarterback and Trey Regis at running back, and then the guy who we're going to talk about here, Elijah Mitchell, had 18 catches, 2 of them were 18 touches, only 2 catches, but he had 168 total yards, averages 9.3 yards per touch, which is fantastic. That's like Darrell Henderson range, and he found the end zone twice in a fantastic game if you weren't able to catch it. Raging Cajuns are quickly becoming must-watch football. They're kind of going to be, I think, the Cinderella for this year, where if they could run the table in the Sun Belt, it's going to be interesting to see where they end up. Obviously, I'm not expecting anything significant from the team as a whole, but they've got 3 very interesting prospects, as I just mentioned, with Lewis, Regis, and Elijah Mitchell. Remember those names as the draft kind of gears up here. The star of the weekend, and this is not including, even with who we got here at tight end, it was really the coming out party here at wide receiver, Marlon Williams out of UCF. Trey Nixon was the star of coming into the weekend. Last year they had Gabriel Davis, who's now with the Buffalo Bills. Marlon Williams, though, has got Draft Network talking about him now after this weekend. I saw Joe Marino tweeting about him a couple times. Jordan Reid, 10 catches, 154 yards, 15.4 yards per catch, and he also found the end zone twice. Two times seems to be the theme here if you're not a quarterback, I'm kind of getting at. Williams plays really big. He's not overtly big, but he's kind of he plays bigger, which is a fantastic aspect to have and something that NFL teams are really going to like. And he attacks the ball when it's in the air, and he's not afraid to go across the middle. He's showing to be a complete receiver with Dylan Gabriel feeding him the ball. And then a tight end, a name everybody should know at this point if you're looking at 2021 rookies, Brevin Jordan out of Miami. He's my top-ranked tight end. It's almost going to be an ink at this point. I'm interested to see what Pat Freiermuth uses with this year at the Big Ten, coming back with Sean Clifford. He's going to be really the focal point of that offense. Him and Journey Brown are going to kind of take over things with KJ Hamler being out of the mix. Penn State's an interesting case all year, but right now, I think the most electric team in college football has to be Miami. De'Aaron King, their quarterback, Camron Harris, who is another contender here for the running back position this week with a fantastic week 2 to follow up his week 1. D'Eriq King has really made this offense what we had thought Tate Martell was going to do last year when he transferred there. But now they get to transfer him from Houston. D'Eriq King, who's quickly becoming a top-ranked prospect too for quarterbacks. He'll be an interesting conversation down the road. But for right now, all we get to do is enjoy Brevin Jordan here from Miami. 7 catches, 120 yards, 2 touchdowns. A fantastic week, too. Next week, they'll be in the spotlight with a primetime game against Florida State. Florida State won't have Mike Norvell, and Florida State as a whole is kind of getting back into the swing of things. Florida State defense, though, is where it's at with Marvin Wilson up front going against D'Eriq King, Brevin Jordan, Camron Harris. That's going to be a big game for them. They have a defensive back who I'm not going to pretend that I know how to say his name yet. His first name is Namsa, but we're going to say he with Brevin Jordan is going to be really interesting. So lots to pay attention to as we get into week 4. We'll have another video next week for the the stars from each position there. Until then, follow everybody at the Fantasy Authority, and we'll see you next week.